It's not like you're looking for a purple unicorn out in the woods. It's like you go sit with a non-speaker who you trust, that you're approaching with love and kindness and, belief really. And boom, they'll show you just there. And so I think anyone who's kind of come into this world has been like, oh, okay, yeah, so I think once I started seeing all other people seeing it and from all walks of life, and hearing so many of corroborating stories, and again, just not in America, just not from any race or creed or religious background, like it's really that widespread, you start to have to understand that, this is real. The other thing I think we did a wonderful science roundtable for the film that was so fascinating. And one of the scientists said, tests can likely, show what's going on and we can do more telepathy tests. But the scientist said, you can also really kind of come up with a very strong scientific theory based on anecdotal evidence. We didn't go test whether or not, radiation from x-rays cause cancer. We had a lot of people telling us, I have cancer and I think it's based on this x-ray or whatever it was, that like you can learn from observation and through personal testimony that's widespread as well. And this has been a journey for me in understanding how science grows and learns. Um, and yeah, so to answer your question, I mean, it was a process, but I think there becomes a point where any way you slice something, you can throw whatever you want at it. And there's been so many things thrown at this, which there should be. It's a huge, wild claim. And I went through my own process doing that same stuff, and nothing breaks it. And that's when you kind of realize like, okay, there's a truth. And that's where I became like pretty full throated about the fact that this is true. I mean, if it was like a bunch of people trying to pull the wool over my eyes or science's eyes or trying to, make a bunch of money and like go on the road, but none of that's happening. Like these people have nothing to gain and everything to lose.
Yeah, that's often the skeptical position, isn't it? It's like, oh, it must be fraudulent, but there's no real depth of thought and analysis that goes into that attitude, because you only have to think about it for a minute and you go, well, what could possibly be the advantage in doing that? And the more likely is that it's just true, and that's what it is. I was thinking about one of the early episodes of the telepathy tapes, because I've listened to all of season 1. It was the non-speaker who had all the stones and
Yeah,
the
Houston.
crystals,
Yeah.
and that was when I thought, oh, there's more to this than it's just telepathy. Like there's more going on. Um,
Yeah.
was there a similar moment for you where you thought, oh, there's a lot more here than what I initially thought there was?
Yeah, because I was so interested in the telepathy, and most of the families would be like, like, why? There's so much more. And thought, what? And then I felt like they kind of doled things out to me at a pace that I could understand. And so one thing is speaking to spirits, and that feels so hard to believe. And I guess, but if you can make the leap that telepathy is happening, then do you have to make the leap that consciousness might not just evolve in our body? And why couldn't it just, whatever? And that would make sense. I think the other thing was so unbelievable was the hill, understanding that so many families were saying my non-speakers know each other and that they're connecting. And what's fun, like in episode 2, our next season comes out October 15th. And in the second episode, we really look into a non-speaker who is a medium, but can also connect with people on the hill. And like, we do some brain scans to see like how that works. And what was fascinating about this family's experience is that after the telepathy tapes came out, so many more families were becoming more public and vocal about this type of thing online. And these families found the kids' friends from the hill and were able to verify it. So, I mean, even the hill, like I know so many people have talked about it and so many non-speakers talk about it. And there's always that part in the back of my brain, but can it actually be possible? It's so unbelievably, how can it be? But then once all these individuals started connecting in the real world and they knew each other's names and their parents, and they could tell their parents how to find them and where they lived, it was like, I think for a lot of parents too, it was like, okay, that's real. And then something started happening with one of the science teams, not involving Dr. Powell. Like this is a completely independent science team that started looking at the telepathy and doing these formal telepathy tests. And the way the non-speaking individuals in that test kind of showed, at least what I took away, is like, okay, this is silly. We should not be testing them anymore. They're trying to show us that we're asking the wrong questions really, because they kind of were playing. I don't know if it was like it was like a game with timelines, where someone would be shown the cue in a different room and have to telepathically send that cue to someone in a way different room, and that speller would start writing something, and it would look wrong. And then they'd say, when they put the cues together, okay, they bring that speller in, and here's what you were looking at. Was it the same? And that the scientist would because it was all triple blind, and then fight out if it was a match. Often it'd be like, okay, well, this wasn't correct. And the speller would be like, no, 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 this is the video that this person will randomly get later in the day. And then the scientist would be like, okay, because these are generated from, hundreds, if not thousands of videos that just randomly a computer will throw one out. The scientists don't even know which video is thrown out until after it's been sent and received 30 minutes after the test is done. Then the scientist knows what video is sent. And then the next speller would get one wrong and say, oh, no, no, this is the video this person's going to get later in the day. And the scientists start giving it a name, a telepathy train, because they were basically being like, we're not just going to tell you the video you're trying to send to us telepathically. I'm going to tell you the video that this person is going to try to send to this person telepathically 2 hours from now. And it would be correct. And so that was kind of I think for a lot of the researchers involved were like, oh, this is so much bigger than just telepathy. There's an expansiveness to whatever this is, this consciousness that they can play with. Or at least these individuals that they were testing could, that is inexplicable based just on our narrow definition of trying to test telepathy. I mean, how do you explain that? They're going into the future. Or remote viewing into the hard drive. I have no idea. It just brought more questions than answers, if that makes sense.
Well, it's the asking questions that's important, isn't it? It's like you can suspend you've got whatever you've got to support your own beliefs, but at some point you have to go, well, what I don't know at the moment isn't sufficient, and I've got to keep on asking questions. I think that's where scientists sometimes, Dr. Powell is an exception for sure, because she kept asking questions, but sometimes science goes, well, we can't measure that, so therefore it can't be true. But do you think that attitude is shifting at all?
I think absolutely. I think for one thing so the telepathy tests that I'm aware of have now been done at University of Virginia, Stanford, University of Oregon, through an independent group that was led by a former Northwestern neuroscientist in Chicago. There've been quite a bit. And what's really fascinating is I think it's all going to, I think within months, if not years, all the research will be out, which is going to it's very, it's very validating. Let me put it that way. But one of the things that the scientists were talking about, it kind of stopped being is telepathy happening? One of the questions they're asking is how many types of telepathy are happening? Because there's one that I think some of the non-speakers are really good at, which is in the same room. And it almost feels like I can just dip over to your consciousness here. And I don't know. I can't say what's happening. I can tell you what it looks like. It looks like reading through someone's eyes or hearing through their ears or somehow seeing something that they should be seeing or knowing something. So what is that? And then there seems to be this more distant telepathy that we're all capable of, which is often most triggered by emergency or need or deep, deep love, right? Someone got in an accident, someone died. And that's one of the hardest to capture in a lab. I mean, how do you capture that? You have to make sure but what was so wild, and again, this is where I'm I don't know, the non-speakers seem to really know how to show things, is that we were trying to test for that first test on the film the day that we were filming one of these big tests in Chicago. And what ended up happening was the second kind, a huge, involuntary, unexpected, emotional need, where while all the cameras and all the things and all the triple blind, everyone's in different rooms, it happened. And it was remarkable to watch and to capture. I mean, it might be the first time ever that type of telepathy has been captured when we were so set up for it, So, and I think that the more this research is starting to get out, University of Virginia, a team of scientists there was can we look at all your raw data and all the raw tests from season 1? And I was sure, why not? So I sent them all the footage and they went through all of it. And again, they were okay, yeah, this is pretty convincing, So I think the more scientists are looking at stuff and testing it, the more they're all starting, at least the ones I've been communicating with, are starting to say clearly there's something going on here. And their thought or their answer for this, I think in most cases, is that we are not we're living in a reality where consciousness is the foundation of everything. That thought is the baseline, and everything is a product of that thought. And not what we've thought for hundreds of years, which is that everything is material and consciousness is, the outgrowth, the final result of this material world. The only thing that could make something like telepathy or clairvoyance or surviving death or precognition possible, or communicating beyond, the divide, is if consciousness is fundamental, and every once in a while it gets a body.
So early on, you started down this road because of the death of your two people close to you. So has that been the big shift in your worldview? It was in terms of what consciousness that actually is? Have you kind of got that sorted out in your mind now as to how things have occurred? Has that helped you with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if season 1 was like the warm up to like, okay, in order to explore any of this fully, we have to have a handle to believe it's true and possible. And I mean, for me, it was understanding that the telepathy is really real. Again, like the science is going to just, I think keep unfolding how real and how vast and how deep this is. That's great. Okay.